name's Roger Brooks. I'm an architectural photographer based in Vancouver, Canada. I've chosen a contemporary residence for this video shoot. It's called the Cube House by the architect, and you can see it has a striking design. The main form consisting of two cube structures. We'll be shooting the open plan living, dining and kitchen areas. Determining camera angles is key here. It's important to visualize how the final image will look. You need to know your lighting well and how best to employ it. Set up your camera and make sure it is locked down for the multiple exposures you'll be doing. A tilt-shift lens allows horizontal movement and cable release is necessary. Clean up and style the room with respect to camera position. Take note of objects close to the camera. We're now ready for the base exposures. I've chosen this angle to best represent the overall interior for the purposes of this video. Camera height is very important. You don't want to be too low so that furniture blocks the view through the room. Alternatively, you don't want to be too high as the shot will lose impact and too much open space will be created. I'm using a 24mm tilt-shift lens in order to capture the volume of the room. I'm not a big fan of wide-angle lenses, but when they serve the purpose, I use them. You could say, why not use a 17mm lens, but this would cause a lot more distortion and you wouldn't have perspective control. I'll be stitching two halves together in Photoshop once all the lighting layers have been added. Stitching the two halves gives an expanded view of the room, which is one of the reasons I mainly shoot in portrait format for this technique. In addition to perspective control, the shift capability is a reason for using this lens. You can see here the two left and right base exposures. Establishing the base exposure without using any supplemental lighting is important for the technique I use. I want an exposure that doesn't blast out the windows totally or block up the shadow areas entirely. Sometimes this is not achievable in a very high contrast situation, so you may have to do a separate exposure for the exterior view and add during your post-production. The main thing is to create a final image that is believable. The base exposure will remain constant throughout the shoot. Although not used for this shot because of the plainly white walls, I often use a digital grey card to establish color balance. Here you see the lighting gear we're using, Fresnel and strobe lights. As you can see, it's quite minimal. To me, this is the great thing about shooting interiors digitally, less gear. The technique used here is quite different than when shooting film. For one thing, I don't use light stands as much. My assistant holds the light and moves around the room lighting various areas and furniture. Remember that these exposures are the same as the base exposures. Don't worry if other areas are lit, as long as the area you intend lighting is covered. You will only be selecting this area. This section shows briefly how to create layers and masking for applying the supplemental lighting. Firstly, to each layer you create, add a layer mask. This will show the full layer image over the base exposure. Next, we want to mask this top lighting layer out, as we'll be brushing in only the areas we want in order to show the added lighting. Go to the foreground background colors and set the background color to black. Of course, this color can be set to your preference. I prefer black. Go to Edit and click on Fill. Click OK. The masking layer now fills with black and your top layer is hidden. Now select the brush tool with opacity at 100%. We can now start brushing in the area of lighting we wish to use. If you make a mistake, hit the X key to change your background color position and you can brush back in the image. Apply the same technique to the next layer and so on until you have added all your lighting layers as shown in the next section. Here you can see the left side base layer with all the lighting layers applied. You can see the layers on the right. Zooming in, we'll start with the strobe on the upper level. You can see the strobe lighting the ceiling. Turning this on and off, you can see the effect. Moving down to the stairs, you can see the effect of the strobe on the stairs. I'll turn this on and off. Now moving down to the living room sofa area, we'll zoom out a bit here. You can see the overall fill of the strobe, the effect on the sofa and some of the tile, the floor tile. We'll move over to the Fresnel lighting now. Firstly, on the counter stools at the kitchen counter, note that the color temperature has been adjusted to match the room and surrounding ambient light. You can now see the lighting for the kitchen, cabinets, entranceway and artwork. See the effect on the cabinets here. See the lights going on and off. Now move over to the artwork. You can see the artwork light going on and off, and now the entranceway. Once you're happy with all the layering, save this as a PSD file in case you need to make some adjustments, and then save the file as a TIFF file, ready for doing the stitching with the right side of the image. These are the two final images we'll be stitching together. As you can see, they're in layered format. So what we'll do next is flatten each image prior to stitching. So the left section, we'll flatten that. Now flatten the right side. Both sides are now flattened. We'll now increase the canvas width for the right side. Go to Image at the top, select Canvas Size. Select the right middle panel. We're going to increase the canvas width to 200%. So select that, change, and click OK. The increased canvas size is now shown. Now we'll drag the left half into the right side canvas. Line up the two sides as best you can. Now to complete this task accurately, go to layer 1 and decrease the opacity to 70%. Zoom in on the image. We can now accurately position the left side. You can use the arrow keys to move the left image precisely. You can see the layer moving into position. Once the images have been lined up, check different areas of the overall image for accurate alignment. There may be some fine-tuning to do as you progress. Now increase the opacity of layer 1 back up to 100%. Create a new layer for layer 1. Click on the Add Layer mask at the bottom. As before, we're going to fill the mask layer with black so that the left side image is hidden. I will now select the brush tool, making sure opacity is 100%. Start brushing in the left side image. I'm just going to decrease the size of the brush here. Now we can start brushing in the left side. As long as your image positioning was accurate, this process should go smoothly. If you need to feather blend certain areas, decrease the brush opacity. I'm not going to go through the whole process. This is just to show you how this works. The main reason I use this technique for stitching rather than an automated process is because it is easier to correct any mistakes, or if you require to blend areas by adjusting brush opacity. You can correct a mistake or reverse the action by changing background-foreground positions. Use the X key to do this. I'll just do that to show you. You can see the palettes change position. The background color is now white, and I can now brush back in the image. In this case, it's showing white because we're just going back to the canvas below. Once you've built up the left-hand side of the image, and when you're happy with the results, you can flatten and save this as a TIFF file. Here is the final image. The two halves have been stitched, certain color corrections have been applied, and contrast adjusted. Perspective has been corrected and any retouching has been done. You can see flames have been added to the fireplace as these were not reading in the daylight situation. This will be saved as a TIFF file approximately 120 megabytes in size at 8-bit. This size of file should be good for the majority of client applications.